Hey, Homeworthy. I'm Shayne Morrissey. Welcome to my client project here in Abilene, Texas.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Shayne Morrissey, founder of Morrissey Home, located in Fort Worth, Texas. And today we're here at one of my recent client projects in Abilene. This home is a very curated home, and my client came here with a lot of her own pieces. You'll see a lot of antiques in this house. There's a lot of beautiful art that tells a story. And really, I would describe the style of this home as being American folk. And it's a style that I was actually unfamiliar with when we began the design process. But as we started to work with my client's existing pieces and her artwork, I think folk really became the style of this home. I was a little nervous to take this project at first because my client had such a strong sense of style coming into the project, and it was a little bit intimidating to work with that. But what ended up happening is that she and I really worked together. We both have a strong sense of style, but I found that our styles were very similar. We really worked very closely together on all of the selections for this project. Welcome to the Great Room. As you can see, this really is the combination of two rooms. We have the kitchen on this end and the living area on this end, which is anchored by this beautiful stone fireplace. This room is really special because there are some really cool antique pieces that we have here, and there are also a couple of new pieces. We knew early on that we were going to work with these Wesley Hall sofas that are done in a Wesley Hall fabric in this tapestry kind of pattern, which is sort of subtle because it's very tonal, but also it does have a lot of movement in it. So we knew that we wanted to go with a rug that still had some pattern, but that was very neutral and soft and would allow these sofas to speak for themselves. The pillows that you see here are made by Simple Things in Fort Worth, and I needed something that would go with these sofas, and I walked in and they had these ready-made and available, and so I think they worked out really well because the yellow pulls in these two campfire chairs, and I think that the blue relates really well to the painting that you see over the mantle. I want to tell you guys about these amazing campfire chairs that my client sourced. So these were 1920s chairs that were recovered in vintage blankets. The artist, Leslie McGinnis, sourced these chairs and recovered them in campfire blankets, and I at first didn't really know what to do with these chairs or where we would put them in the home because they have this really kind of it's a very Americana stripe to it, but I think it ended up working perfectly here, and really this became the inspiration for all of the finishes that you see in this room. One of the really fun, whimsical things I think in this room are these swan boxes that are from Oak Street here in Abilene, and I think they just add a really cool element to the space. We sourced these cowhide ottomans for the room because we wanted something that had a little bit of a different texture to it. At first, I thought that we would cover these in an antelope hide, but my client really liked the ideas of these being done in cowhide since here we are in West Texas, and I think that they ended up really cool, and they really do feel very much at home here. And it also, because of the profile of these, it adds a modern element to the space that is otherwise, I think, pretty traditional. I sourced these Ralph Lauren lamps for this space because I really loved the simplicity of them, but then you'll notice they have these perforations on them that really adds some great visual interest and texture. The shades that came with these lamps were paper shades, and I felt that the lamps were a bit too simple with the standard paper, so we opted for these fabric shades from the shade shop. We have this pair of oak antique cabinets here flanking the fireplace, and originally we had planned for these to be installed in the kitchen, but when it came out in the build, it seemed like these were going to feel a little bit out of place, and so fortunately they were a perfect fit for this area next to the fireplace, and it's actually quite rare to find the pair, so these are really special. Atop the fireplace mantle, we have this painting by Mary Gregory, which is a really beautiful landscape scene. And Mary is a local artist here in Abilene. It was important to my client that we have a really prominent piece of local art here in this room. And I think it's a really beautiful focal point. I think this is a really impressive artifact. This is an antique fireplace bellow from Bordeaux, France, that my client sourced. And this would be used to stoke the fire. And I think it just has a really cool architectural element to it, and definitely something to remember. Along this wall, we have a collage of my client's art collection. And these are pieces that she's collected throughout her life. And one of the things that I want to mention are these little pieces here, which are called museum bees. And these are made from vintage picture frames and sometimes coins or jewelry and other elements. And I just think it's really fun to have those peppered in. You'll see one here, and we have a couple down here as well. All right, now I'm going to take you to the kitchen area. Follow me. My client came to this home with a lot of her own pieces of furniture and artwork, and this was really the first time that I've designed a project around a client's existing furniture and art. And so typically the finishes and all of the hard surface selections inform the furniture and the rest of the interior, but in this case it was the opposite. The furniture ended up informing the design selections for the home, and that ended up being a really fun process to work that way. I really love all of the rooms in this home, so it's challenging to name one as my favorite. I love this room we're sitting in, which is really a great room, and you see behind me the kitchen that connects to it. I think this is a really great place for the beginning of the story that is this home. But I also love the primary suite. We have a beautiful muraled wallpaper in there and some other interesting wall treatments that make the space feel really special and uplifted. The library here at this house is also a really beautiful, cozy space that I think feels very intimate and whimsical. Welcome to the kitchen. This is one of my favorite rooms in the house, and I really just absolutely love this wallpaper by Schumacher. This is a Swedish wallpaper, and it's a botanical, which I felt like we really needed in here against all the hard surfaces that we have. I think it softens and makes this feel a little bit more playful. We opted for these Leblon quartz countertops, which have beautiful hues of blue and green. And we did this in a leather finish, so it has a really nice hand to it. You can feel the individual veining in the countertop, and it's actually just a really great surface to use for rolling out dough and baking, and I think also a beautiful design element. We knew early on that we wanted to have a checkerboard floor in this kitchen. This was actually supposed to be laid on the diagonal, and I came in to do a site visit, and they had laid it in this checkerboard pattern. And I was a little bit concerned initially, but I actually ended up loving it, and so did my client. So we kept it just as it is, and I think it's great. And you'll notice that the only appliance that you see in stainless steel is the Wolf range. We really wanted this kitchen to feel more like it was furnished rather than a working kitchen, which it very much is. But you'll notice that apart from this, all of the appliances are paneled. And so you end up with this really seamless look, and it allows your eye to just travel through this space and not get caught when you see a piece of stainless steel. Another thing I want to mention that I think is really important are these light fixtures, which my client brought from another home. These are Curry and Company. They're no longer making these, but if you look closely, they have little oak leaves, acorns, and squirrels on them. And so just a really fun, whimsical, folky element for this kitchen. I knew we wanted to have this bell hood over the range, and originally we were going to hang a collection of my client's copper pots underneath this range, and we were going to build a quartz shelf here. But as the design continued to unfold, I realized that we needed to create an element that would give this hood a little bit more drama. So what we did is we ran the quartzite up as the backsplash, but we swooped the sides so that it just takes your eye up and creates a, I think, beautiful dramatic effect. And to further enhance that, we flanked it with these two sconces by Ralph Lauren that have a burnished metal edge and then brass in the middle. And I think that they're really beautiful and just add a lot of warmth here to this space. We decided to clad this ceiling in wood and carry the wood beams through. And you'll notice that instead of going with the typical can lights that you'll see, we did these mini brass flush mount fixtures by Visual Comfort. And it's amazing just how much elegance it adds to a room like this. I really love the color of these cabinets. It's a really beautiful red, and this color is called Red Barn by Sherwin-Williams. The sink here is a sink by the Galley, and this is a functional sink that serves as an area to cut. You can lay cutting boards on it. It has multiple wash stations, and we needed to opt for two faucets because the sink is so long that we wanted to be able to have functionality at both ends. And finally, I want to talk about the seating options in this area. You know, we really had a lot of conversations about the bar stools here. I originally thought that the bar stools should be backless so that we would end up not having backs of chairs backed up to each other. But it was important to my client that these have backs just for support because the family does dine here quite often. And so we ended up going with these backed bar stools, which are by Hancock and Moore. And we customized the options for the wood and with this green leather and brass nail head. And they're actually quite different from the seating on this end, which is French ladder back chairs that we paired with this French table as well. These are items that my client brought with her to the house. And we made these CR Lane captain's chairs so that we could have an element to soften all of the wood elements that we have here. All right, now let's head to the scullery. For most of my life, I have wanted to be an interior designer, and I think I knew by the age of 15 that this is what I wanted to do for a career, or at least that I wanted to be in the business of creating homes and making spaces better. That was always important to me. My dad was a general contractor who owned a remodeling business, and so I grew up in that and working with him during the summers, and so homes were always a big part of my life and a big part of my upbringing. And so I majored in interior design in college at the Art Institute, and I ended up starting to work for an interior designer in Dallas as his assistant, and I did that for about a year. And from him, I really learned how to style spaces and how to scale furniture to a room. And these are things that you don't learn in design school because interior design, as far as education goes at school, is very technical. And so you really have to be in the field, and you have to you have to be hands-on in order to learn how to properly style a space. And I was able to absorb that like a sponge from him. And then I ended up about a year later partnering with my dad and his construction company, and we created a design build firm together. And so we were managing construction in-house and interior design in-house simultaneously, which was always a really interesting challenge. It was fun, but it was extremely challenging to manage both in-house. And when the pandemic happened, we really had to pivot because we weren't able to get the product on the build end and we weren't able to get the product on the interior design end. And so the logistics of all of that became too much to manage. So we decided to pivot and focus entirely on interior design and to step away from construction. And so now we're 2 years into being a full-fledged interior design business, and it's been a really wonderful thing because I've been able to give a lot of focus to interiors and creating beautiful spaces for people, which is what I've always enjoyed. Welcome to the Scullery and Baking Center. So a scullery is historically a place where dishes are washed, put away, and stored. And so this room certainly serves that purpose, and it is also a baking center. So you'll notice when we transition to this part of the room that inside of these retractable cabinet doors are all of the countertop appliances. So none of this stuff is out in view. Everything has a home, which is really nice. Again, in this room, we wanted to make sure that as many appliances as possible would be paneled so that we would have a really seamless furniture-like interior. And so we have the dishwasher drawers here that I think are super convenient and just a really nice functional touch to the space. The focal point of this room is this 18th century panetière, which is a French cabinet that would be used to store bread and pastries. And I just thought it was such a cool element that my client brought to the home that we really wanted to showcase it. So you see this when you are walking from the kitchen into the scullery. The plates that you see on the wall here are carrying the whimsical touch from the kitchen. These are all sourced from Anthropologie. All right, now I'm gonna take you guys to see the powder room. Welcome to the powder baths. I think that powder rooms are a really great opportunity to do something fun and sometimes a little bit unexpected. And so in this room, we have this really cool hound tile. So you can see the hound dogs on these, and these were designed by the painter Adam Trest, and I think they're just a really cool element here. I wanted to bring out the red that you see in the tile, and so we did this beautiful red wainscoting in this bathroom, and then atop of that we did a grass cloth wallpaper, just a really nice subtle element, but a lot of texture there, and this paper is from the Curated House of Brands. And when you walk into the powder room, you'll notice the chandelier, which is a Chapman and Myers chandelier that we source from Visual Comfort. We have this custom concrete sink. This is by Concreti, and it perfectly matches the blue-green hues that you see in the tile. We really wanted the fixtures to show up here, so against this deep slate blue, we chose to go with unlacquered brass fixtures from Newport Brass. There are a lot of rules in interior design that people like to follow or abide, and I have never really paid a lot of attention to rules. I find it kind of difficult to follow rules, so I really just tell people that when you're curating your own space, you have to be just that. Be a curator, be very discerning about what you buy, the size, the scale of the items. And I think that a really great rule of thumb is to only buy pieces that you love. It's your home, and you really want to be surrounded by things that are beautiful and more so meaningful to you. Welcome to the primary suite. This is a spacious bedroom. So I knew we wanted to do a muraled wallpaper, and we chose this incredible scene from Schumacher. And I wanted to avoid this becoming repetitive throughout the room, because you'll see that the willow tree and this scene does repeat. And so what we did is we designed this custom fluted oak wall treatment that extends from the floor all the way up to the top of the vaulted ceiling. And we did that here, and you'll see it also at the top on this side of the room. And it really adds a great textural element, and I think brings a lot of warmth into the space. We did this solid, beautiful wine-colored rug from Jake Arnold. And while it is a solid rug without pattern, it has a really cool mottled shimmery effect because of the way that the yarns were brought. The bed is antique ironwork that was welded into a bed in Fredericksburg, and this is from the antique company called Leftovers. We opted for these Lisa fine linens for the bedding. You will notice that we have this beautiful floral block print pattern, and we actually were able to have this made into a quilt. The soft finishes artist who made this strategically quilted around every single flower. So you get this beautiful quilting effect, but it also really highlights the individual designs of the florals in the bedding. We have these beautiful Curry and Company chagrin nightstands that are contrasting mahogany and a faux chagrin. And I think these really bring together the light and the dark elements that you see in the wallpaper. Really wanted to bring out the green that we had in this quilt. And so we use these beautiful lamps that are ceramics from Visual Comfort. And this is an antique daybed that my client sourced. And we actually had it reupholstered in this fabric from the Cravat House of Brands. And this is a Tibetan fabric that was loomed in Tibet, and they incorporated pieces of leather in the straps. And I think that that just enhances the textural elements in this room. This is a chandelier by Jamie Young, and I think the crystals on this chandelier really add a lot of elegance and some light to this space that is otherwise has a lot of rustic elements to it with the oak walls. We were really intentional about where we placed the pattern on this wallpaper. And so we were able to work with the wallpaper installer to make sure that we strategically placed this willow tree arching over this threshold to the primary bath. This bathroom is a really, really nice retreat. And you'll notice that we have this beautiful porcelain tile that mimics viola marble. And one of my favorite things in this bathroom is this burnished metal tub by Penhaglian. We knew early on that we were going to use this, and it's really very special because when you look closely at the finish, it's very unique. No two of these tubs are created exactly the same. We knew that we were going to have some of these darker, bolder elements in the room, and so we wanted to carry that. And when you look at the painting above the tub, this is another piece by Mary Gregory. And we didn't really know where we were going to place this painting at first, but I think that it adds a really nice masculine element to this room, juxtaposed against this crystal chandelier that is just beautiful and brings so much light into this space. We have these beautiful fluted white oak cabinets, and we topped that with this gorgeous marble that brings some grays and neutrals into the space. And we wanted to do a combination of finishes. So we have brass hardware on the cabinets, and we have polished nickel fixtures from Newport brass on the counters. For the shower, we chose this red tile, which pulls some of the tones of the viola marble. And I really love this shower. I think the red is an unexpected element in a lot of ways, but I think it worked out really well. All right, now let's see the rest of the house. And before we head to the library, I want to show you this bench in the mudroom. This is a schoolhouse bench, and just a really cool antique natural wood element to add in this space that has painted wainscoting. And my client really loves dogs, and so all of the hooks have dogs on them, and we have these paintings that have our clients' pets on them. Welcome to the library. We started this space knowing only that we had these two chairs, which are antiques that my client had upholstered in Schumacher fabrics. And I wasn't really sure where to go with these at first, but we just decided that since we had this really cool folky pattern with the birds and the botanicals, that we would just play that up. And so we selected this really beautiful botanical wallpaper. This is called Mimosa, and it's also a Schumacher wall covering. We incorporated this beautiful plaster floral light fixture from Julie Neal. And not only is it very sculptural, but it also, because it has plaster, has a really beautiful texture to it. And when you're sitting in these chairs beneath it and you look up, it just glows, and it's very soft and ambient. My client also came with this antique secretary desk that was repainted in this beautiful green color. And it goes so beautifully with the wallpaper that we chose here. And I think that this is just a really, really beautiful piece. On top of it, we have these lamps that are made of antique water pitchers, and they have these really, really cool jute shades on them that are scalloped, and just a nice detail here. There's a cool story to this upright piano. My client is from Durango, Colorado, and her parents bought this piano from a bar that was going out of business back in the day. And she has kept it with her in her homes and decided to bring it here to Abilene for this house. And I think it's just a beautiful piano and a great piece that has, I think, a really cool story and family history to it. And this really is a space for reading and having your morning coffee. And so we filled the shelves with my client's books, and not only with her books, but with some of the elements of art and figures that she's collected through the years. The horse paintings that you will see, this round one here and this painting, are by Shelby Gachet, who specializes in equestrian art. And I think they're a really nice touch for this room. And as you exit the library, you are directed back toward the foyer, which is, I think, a really great space to be received in when you come to this home, and you already get a little bit of an idea of the story that you're going to see as you enter this house. All right, y'all, welcome to the media room. So we ended up paneling this room in shiplap, which really, I think, creates a nice textural element to it because we really wanted to color drench this room. But I think that sometimes when you do color drenching like that, you've got to add some sort of texture on the walls for a nice treatment so that everything isn't just so homogeneous. One of the wonderful things that we have here in this room is this painting of the elephant in the teacups and the teapots. This was a commission piece from the artist Heather Gauthier, and I just really love it. Since this is a multi-use space of a media room and game room, I liked the idea of having these studio sconces that really remind me of movies and movie making. And so I think they're a really cool element. They add a little bit of softness to the space because the screens are made out of a linen fabric. You'll notice that we have this whimsical, playful rug in this room. And I think it's great because this is also a room where the kids will play and hang out. And so we wanted to add that gaming element to the space. And so you'll notice that we have this game cube from Century, which you can play several different games on that, and just a really nice carved wood element here. Home means so many things to me. I think that home really is a retreat. It's a space that you can escape to and be alone when you need to be, but it's also a space where you can welcome people into your home and you can host them. And I think one of the most beautiful things you can do is to put on a wonderful meal for people, and that's certainly something that I enjoy. So home can also mean generosity, and I really think that when we look at homes that are beautiful and that have a story, they really have a soul to them. And I think that when you look at a home that's been lived in and well cared for and well decorated, you recognize that maybe there's a little bit of the soul of the person who dwells there in that house.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.